Hi, how are you today? It has been a while. So originally, when I said that I wasn't going to be coming to you for a few weeks, it was because of the holidays and travel. Then it became because of illness and the holidays and more illness. And the travel hasn't actually even happened yet, although the packing and preparing has started. I'm just kind of checking to see where I am here. So what I'm doing today is that I didn't want to lose touch with you guys. So I've started recording some videos that I can put up. And I lost my voice, by the way, during all of that. I had a really bad sinus infection. And by Christmas morning, I was just making squeaky noises that people had to interpret to know what I was saying. So I've got my voice back for the most part. It comes and goes a little bit, but I'm feeling so much better. And I have been busy. So I've been trying to record short videos, really short videos that I can put up kind of here and there until I get settled in Florida, where I can start with my regular schedule again. Okay, so there I am. That's what I wanted to check and see. All right, it's a extremely gray day here in the Finger Lakes region of upstate New York. And for those of you who don't know who I am or what I'm going on and on about, I'm Roberta Colosino, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator here in the Finger Lakes region of upstate New York, kind of between Rochester and Syracuse. Somebody asked me that once. The Finger Lakes region itself is pretty large. So if you're familiar with it, then it seems like I'm telling you, somewhere in this 10,000 mile radius or something. Anyway, so today we're simply going to make one card. That's it. All right. And I pulled out one of my favorite colors. It used to be a favorite Christmas card color of mine. And I don't know what happened, but at some point I stopped using it. Okay. I just discovered a mistake that I made that I had been trying to figure out what I did wrong, and I just figured it out. So that's good, but we can correct that. It's always good for you to see mistakes, honestly, because then you can just not do what I do. All right, so as far as a stamp set goes today, I'm using the Layered Thoughts stamp set. Basically, I like this set a lot because it's big and bold. Let me just turn the camera down and we'll get going, and then you can see what I'm talking about. That might make much more sense. Hang on, I might have to do a little bit of adjusting here. Okay, let's see. Let's just bring me a little bit closer and angle me a little bit that way. All right, the only problem with bringing me closer this way is that on occasion what ends up happening is that I hit my head on the tripod because it's like practically in my face. All right. And then, of course, when I get to Florida, it's a whole different ball of wax. So, and my ring light is really kind of in the way, which it usually isn't. So let's see what I can do with that so that I still get some light, but don't get the crazy reflection. Hang on, I've got to wait for the delay to be over. All right, I certainly won't get to it like immediately after arriving in Florida, but for a couple of years I've been saying, and I could do it in here too actually, when I'm in a room with a ceiling fan that doesn't actually have a light fixture, it might be possible for me to, I need new ceiling fans anyway, they're like 30 some odd years old, get a ceiling fan with a light fixture that has daylight bulbs in it, but it won't be right over my head, so it shouldn't cause any glare. I don't know. So anyway, Layered Thoughts, the reason I like it is because it has these big, bold sentiments, which I like. They're not flourishy or pretty, so they're not for every kind of card. In fact, I'm not 100% sure they're perfect for the card that we're making today, but I wanted to use it. So you have Happy Birthday, which is one stamp. You have Thank. Then you have this nice, pretty little U in cursive, okay? And then you have Love, which could be love to you. And then you have Thinking, and then thinking of you. So I really like how those work together, and how the bold and the smaller cursive kind of work together. So we're going to be using that, all right? And we're going to be doing one of those cards where the card base is just a background, is just a one piece, however you want to say it. And then a card goes on top of it. And there you go. I realized something wasn't right with the measurements, and I just wasn't figuring out what was wrong with the measurements, but now I get it. So I'm going to cut this down. So this piece here which is considered the card base. This is Blackberry Bliss, which, like I said, used to be an all-time favorite. I haven't used it in a couple of years, and I knew that was true because when I took out my Blackberry Bliss ink pad, it was as dry as a desert. So I'm not sure how it's going to perform today because it really needs some time to soak in the ink, but we'll hope for the best. If not, I'll switch colors. All right, so this is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and the basic white card base needs to be 8 inches long here, which is, but it needs to be 8 inches by 5 1/4. Okay, so that's 8 inches by 5 1/4. So I think I may have to, you know what, I may have to start all over again for that one because I think, I'm really trying to remember. This is a card, inspiration from Karen Titus, but I haven't made this card in quite some time. So let me see. So 8 1/2 by, what did I say? 5 1/4. 5 1/4. So it's 8 1/2 this way, and now 5 1/4 this way. It still doesn't seem right. It still seems like if I fold it in half, it's going to be too big. So that's why I think the 5 1/4. So that's good. Half, like it's going to be too big. So I feel like we might not need. I don't know. 5 1/4, huh? That just. All right, maybe. It just doesn't make sense. Sorry, I should have figured this out beforehand. I kind of knew something was wrong, but then I dismissed it, thinking that I was just being me. If I score it at 5 1/4, that won't be right. 8 1/2 scored in half is 4 1/4, and I think that might be not right. Because the 5, I don't know where the 5 1/4 part comes in, unless it really just was a mistake somewhere down the line, which is entirely possible too. Either my mistake or Karen's mistake. Yeah, so it really, that just can't be right. Okay, so what we're gonna do, unless I'm just truly not understanding something. So if this is, you know what, it's good for you to see this process though. So if this is 4 right here, okay, if this card base is 4, oh, but you know what? It's supposed to be 4 1/4. That's the issue. It's supposed to be bigger. It's not supposed to be 4. 4 would be like a top layer on a card. Okay, so let me get the paper out. So this is the Blackberry Bliss paper. So it does have to be 8 though. So it's 8. Yeah, this it's still not making sense the way it's written. So I either copied something wrong. So it's 8 by 4, and typically you fold it in half. All right, but half is obviously not going to work here. So, but this is all right. Never mind. This is 4 1/4 by 5 1/4. So it's the 4 1/4. Here we go. 4 1/4. Okay, now I got it. 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. All right, so sometimes this is a process, and I think you've probably heard me say this before, but I would be probably talking out loud, even if it were just me sitting here by myself doing this, because that's how I know I'm doing things right, by talking them through. All right, so that makes a little bit more sense, but this, for the white part, this still doesn't make sense. So, yeah, it can't be that much. It has to be a little bit less. So 4 1/4, if we take it down 1/4 of an inch, okay. Okay. Now this is starting to make more sense, because typically you would have the colored piece as the top layer on top of the card, and in this case it's sort of being done excuse the expression, kind of ass backwards. Okay, so now I think we got it. Now, what I do not want to do, and I had to keep reminding myself, okay, so aside from these two pieces, so this one is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and the basic white cardstock now measures, it's really not even 8. Well, yeah, it is 8. It's 8 inches by 5 1/4 folded in half, so that would be 4 1/4. Okay, so that would normally get glued on there. What I have to keep reminding myself to do is to not glue that on yet, because we have to do something else first. And it would be so easy to forget it, and then you'd be kind of out of luck. All right, so the other thing that we needed was a piece of DSP. Now, as pretty as this is, no, I am going to use this side, but I'm going to use the other side of a different one. So this one here is 3 by 5 1/4. And then we have one here that is a square that's 3 3/4 by 3 3/4 folded in half. All right. And as pretty as this is, I'm going to be using this other half. And I didn't fold it perfectly well, but it's not going to matter. So here's why. Okay. So the first thing we can do is we can glue this down onto this. And this is going to be a perfect fit going this way. And it's going to leave a little opening over there, which is just fine. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And this paper, by the way, is at least 2 years retired. It might be longer retired. But I'm doing a lot of experimenting and playing around. I'm trying to decide what cards I might want to do for my Facebook Lives in Florida, and what cards I might want to do for a card class in Florida. I typically do a Valentine's class in my community in Florida, and that is usually just a free class that I donate because basically they're my neighbors. And then I do some other classes at, oh my gosh, what do you call it? Panera Bread. If you didn't know this, Panera Breads are required by their ownership. I know they're what do you call it? Oh, they're franchises, but the company requires that every Panera Bread have what they call a community table. So that means that someone could call up and say, I'd like to reserve your community table on Monday for a craft get-together, for a club meeting. You know, it could be for anything. I think it's just not supposed to be, like for you to be doing some big sales pitch, selling something. I think, teaching a class and charging a few dollars or whatever. Nobody's ever said I couldn't do that or balked at it, and I did refer to it as a class. But if you have a knitting group or whatever, and you live near a Panera Bread and you'd like to meet there, I don't know that you could spend the whole day at that table, probably just an hour or 2 hours, whatever. But they do have a community table that they are obligated to make available to the community. So I offset that just a tiny bit, which, could have been done because the glue was drying too fast, could have been done because I kind of like the way that looks. Now here's where this part comes in. So this part, and that's why I'm not using this, because that would be a little too much. This part is going to get glued right over here. And if my cutting was a little off, and as a result there's a little something sticking up, then I can just take my scissors and snip that part of it, but it doesn't have to be even. So I will get rid of just this tiny part here that might be showing from the other side, and a tiny smidgen of that corner too. And then we'll see if that was enough. Okay, and I'm going to score that because I really want this to be flattened out and not popping up, and you'll see why in a couple of minutes. So now that's going to go on there. It's a little bit wasteful in that you're just not going to see that at all, and it could have been cut, shorter. I could have made the square a tiny bit bigger and then just made like a scored edge here. You could certainly do that. No one's telling you can't. Like I said, I was initially just following someone else's pattern, and so I stuck with her directions. And then I kind of wrote them down for myself when I made a... oh, wait. It goes on here, though. On the back, not on the front. that wrapped around. I'm going to push it down and make sure it's lined up first. Again, if I have to, I can snip a little whatever off. And then I'm just going to press it down on the back side here. Give it a good burnish. No one's going to see it anyway, but we want to make sure that it's staying in place. Okay, and now I do see just the tiniest smidge. And boy, do I say tiny, like I'm surprised I could even see it. That we're just going to cut off here. Okay, that one's good. And so now the card goes in this direction, and that's important too. And now I can go ahead and I can glue this on. Now I'm also breaking one of my own rules in that I always tell people in my classes, and I as opposed to putting something on the cover, like we often do, you know, a sentiment statement or whatever. Okay, I also see that there's a tiny bit of that DSP coming up over the edge here, so I'm going to give that just a tiny trim. These scissors are amazing at cutting like a sliver. Next time not to do that. It's better, especially when you're teaching a class. And it's also great when I'm teaching a class if one of my customers in a class were to say to me, well, hey, couldn't you just trim that off? And then I'm like, yes, you absolutely could. That was great that you thought of that, because when people are first learning, they don't always think of those things. Heck, I don't even always think of those things. It has nothing to do with being a first learner. Sometimes it just isn't occurring to you on a given day for whatever reason. All right, this little thing that I do is a way of sliding a card into the right position while the glue is still damp, and it seems to work better than trying to shove it. It's not always perfect, but it does help me a lot to do that. Okay, so we've got that. So now, we're going to stamp on the inside. Okay, and this is where I'm going to use, and you know, I'm really taking a super risk here, to be honest with you, because this ink has not been stamping so well, because I just re-inked it, and it's looking a little funky, to be honest with you. This also, just truth in advertising, these ink pads are not meant to last forever. They can be re-inked and used for years, okay? Don't get me wrong, re-inked and used for absolutely for years. But this is probably, except for the older style ink pads, which I still have some of, this particular color and a few others are probably the ones that I've had the longest, and I am starting to see them showing their age. So at some point I might have to replace those, and that doesn't make me angry or anything. It's just what happens. They are meant to be a consumable. They won't last forever. Okay, and if it's crooked, guess what? It's going to stay a little crooked. Okay. So I can fix. If I have a Blackberry Bliss marker, or just because I never know who's watching, who's seen me do these things a million times, and who's watching who never has. Another way to fix things, and it's not perfect, especially for something like lettering, but it works, is to take one here, and you clean them off just taking a piece of scrap paper and just brushing them like this, just in case somebody used it before you, or you used it before and didn't clean it off. You want to make sure there's no ink of a different color on there. Now actually I'm going to try to just pick up some ink right there from there, and now you use it just like a marker. All right, and if you've got a reasonably steady hand, you can do this. Now I might have to go over that a couple of times to make it dark enough, but it's just the A and maybe a tiny bit here on this H. And if I go over it again in a couple of minutes, or even like, you know, later on today, it'll be okay. It'll be the same color. So that's what I'm going to do to get that card fixed so that I can use it. Would it be a card that I sell? Probably not. Would it be a card that I'd give to someone who wouldn't even notice? Yeah. All right. So the other thing that we would bring out today to make the card finished is, you're probably saying, well, how does that card close? That's kind of weird. How's that going to work? And the answer is it won't, because we're not done yet. Okay. The other thing I guess I should show you real quick, pardon my arm and my reach, is that, and where is it? I've got to buy more of these because I take them to the gallery and use them to get paint off the walls. So what I'm looking for is what's called a sand eraser, and I may have it in my bag. So it's literally got some grit in it, some sand in it. This is not it. And if you go over a little bit of an ink spot and it's not bad, it will remove it. In fact, even an eraser like this will remove one that's not, not too bad. All right, so in this case, it wasn't a good plan because the eraser was dirty, so I really made a mess out of that. So just pretend you didn't see that. Back to what I was starting to say. So the other things that we might bring out today is we might bring out something like this. So this is a retired Sweet Thoughts Memories and More card pack. And the Memories and More card pack can be used for scrapbooking, where these cards and some of the larger ones go into a pocket scrapbooking setup like your Project Life. But they can also be used as card fronts for people who just maybe don't want to stamp, or maybe they want to make a bunch of cards with some real beginners and just kind of get them the idea of making cards without frustrating them. And usually they will come, and this one does too, with a couple of pages of cutouts that you just pop out, and you don't have to die cut them yourselves. They're already done. You just pop them out and you put them onto what you're making. The other thing that you can use are die cuts, and I'm always also telling people in my videos and telling my customers in my classes, if you're going to sit down to die cut some flowers using your Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, or any type of cutout or thing that you've stamped using the stamp sets, or if you're going to use the die cuts, don't just do one. If you're making one card, you know you're going to use this again. That's why you bought it. You bought it because you liked it. So stamp a bunch of them and die cut a bunch of them. Minimally, at least, stamp a bunch of them in different colors. So this is what I did when I made that calendar that I showed you a couple of weeks ago. All right. Then we also have what's called our ephemera packs. So these are for people who want life really easy, okay? So an ephemera pack has already cut out and already stamped sentiments, but they may also have, and I haven't opened this one yet, so I don't remember what else is in it. It may have some flowers or some leaves or some other things. This is also called an ephemera pack, but this one is mostly labels. So if you don't want to die cut labels, if you don't want to have a die cut machine, you don't have to cut them. You just pull them out. They're already cut. You can just pull out these and use them for labels for your sentiments. So there's lots and lots of options. And of course, we're going to want some bling. And right over here, I also have another ephemera pack that I pulled out that I've used a lot of already. So I think we're going to make this card I know we're going to make this card in my class tomorrow without any of the mistakes. Might choose a different color for tomorrow, just to be honest, because that's not working too well. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take an image off of here that kind of goes with the color scheme of this card. But I'm going to pick one that I'm not going to want to use in my class tomorrow. Now, I could pick a great big one. Now, there is yellow on that card, but there isn't. I think this is, either Shy Shamrock or Summer Splash. But anyway, we're going to take something like that that's on a cardstock. It's not on just a piece of paper. All right? And what we're going to do is we are going to take some dimensionals. Those are the pop-up things. All right, and let's see. Those are minis. I'd rather have a large. Do I have any large left? I have some bits and pieces. Okay, so we're going to take, hang on. So the nice thing about the minis is that around the edges, they have really large pieces that you can cut off for the edging. So what I'm going to do, because this is going to act like a catch or a latch, whatever you want to call it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some dimensionals over on only one side of this. These are just some other end pieces. Hello. Oh, I'm stuck. Very sticky, by the way, just in case you're wondering. Very sticky stuff. All right, and then I think I'll put another one going kind of across here. And then I'll peel the backings off of those. Maybe I'll peel the backings off of those. There we go. All right, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this like this so it's not touching any of the sticky stuff. And then I'm going to put it down. So when the person goes to open this card, they simply pull that out and open the card. And then they close it and stick it back in. And you'll do the same when you're ready to mail this card. All right. If you're concerned about postage, you could glue this down. It would be flatter, and that would be fine too. Just make sure you don't leave any glue, and don't tuck this in until that glue is dried, because if there's a little bit of damp glue in there, then your little opening could stick to it, and that would rip the card. And you don't want it to rip, at least not before they've actually seen the card. That wouldn't be nice, right? All right, so we're just going to make the one card today. All right, and that's it. It's just the one card, and this will be a short, and then I will do another short. I might even do one later on today. Who knows? So if you see me wearing the same clothes, I'm really not wearing them 3 days in a row. I'm just doing a couple of different videos, and this one I'll probably publish right away because I haven't seen you guys in a while, but I'm doing it on a private channel that I have just for this purpose. All right, so thank you very much for watching. You're definitely catching me on the replay because nobody can see this live. All right, and I will see you, I'm not sure when, so no promises being made. I think that I will probably be in Florida by Wednesday next week, but whether I will be unpacked and ready to go, that's a whole different story. All right, take care, and thank you for watching.